Hey, I'm Alex back from Board Game Co, and this is your 2-back or not to back. That's correct, it is Wednesday today. It is not Monday, but we still have our 2-back or not to back going up today, as I told you on Monday, which instead, we had our upcoming crowdfunding campaigns for the month of December, of which they all launched already. They kind of all launched. That all the games I talked about in that video kind of already launched. That's the way the end of the year works in crowdfunding. Anyways, this is 2-back or not to back, probably or possibly the last 2-back or not to back of the year, depending on how things go. Next week we'll have a late pledge video. The week after that, I'll probably be doing my top 100, and the week after that, I don't know yet because I haven't plotted out my schedule that far ahead because I got too many things to do and I'm heading to PAX Unplugged as you're watching this video. Anyways, this is 2-back or not to back. We're going to go ahead and dive into a bunch of crowdfunding campaigns. We're gonna tackle a lot today. There's a whole bunch that I've been slowly pushing off and getting caught up on. There are a few still that I will be missing out on, smaller campaigns, but nonetheless I do feel bad about. But there's only so much time I have in this video, and I'm spending the first minute of it rambling all over the place. So with that, let's go ahead and start off, as usual, with our Cult of the Now. Before we dive into all these crowdfunding campaigns that are going to tempt you with oh so many pretty things over here, we're going to start off with Cult of the Now, which is, granted, not helping that problem, because our Cult of the Now today is Thunder Road Vendetta Maximum Chrome Edition for $180. The Cult of the Now is supposed to be a pitch of I'm supposed to say, hey, before we talk about all these games that are going to be very expensive, and then I'm showing you a $180 game, so I'm only half doing my job today, because the other part of that is crowdfunding is all about these games that are very expensive and games you have to wait a year and a half for and games you have to back before even seeing that much review coverage of or seeing general people's opinions and all that stuff. And this Cult of the Now, we still have some of those things are good, like, you know, you do have a lot of review coverage, you could get it now, but it is going to be a $180 version of Thunder Road in case you're interested in it, but you can check it out. It is highly rated. The Maximum Chrome Edition supposedly is where it's at. I wouldn't know. I played the regular edition and I thought it was a good game. Just that's it. For me, I thought it was a good game, but it is a well-loved game, so definitely check this one out in case you missed out on the crowdfunding campaign, and you can get it now instead of a year and a half from now, and with a whole lot of review coverage and all those fun things. With that, we're going to go ahead and dive into a bunch of crowdfunding campaigns. We have a lot to go through today. We have a bunch in the board game adjacent category. We have one in the not yet funding category. We will not, I'll save you some time in case you're here looking for it, we will not be covering Lands of Evershade, because instead, yesterday, I did a dedicated Should You Back video on Lands of Evershade, fully diving into that campaign, because that was like 20 minutes right on that alone, and this, I would not covering Lands of Evershade today. Check out yesterday's video if you want to see that. We're going to start off over here with Man vs. Meeple Season 5, the MVM 10. Man vs. Meeple is back with a crowdfunding campaign to go ahead and release their newest promos, but most importantly, as they say in this campaign, the purpose here is to support the channel. If you are a fan of MVM, if you watch their videos, enjoy the videos, benefit from the content, this is a good opportunity to go ahead and support the channel, and if you also want, you do get a bunch of promos at the same time, depending on what pledge level you go for. The $30 is going to be just basically supporting the channel. You have $35, which will get you the MVM 10s, 10 specific promos that they have now ready to ship out. They're trying to keep it nice and focused this year instead of going for a ton of stuff that will take a ton of time and energy and effort and like all these things sprawling across a whole bunch of promos you don't even care about. They're focusing on 10 promos that they think are worth your time and attention that are ready to go right now. And then they also have the MVM over here, the MVM Plus $100 over here, limited to 50 backers. They'll give you a bit more of a hands-on approach, as well as early access to their Gen Con MVM event, things like that. That is going to be the MVM campaign in case you are benefiting from the channel. This is a good opportunity to go ahead and support them. In the other board game adjacent category, we also have the Modular Gaming Table by Wormwood, holiday deals for 2024. I will not be heavily diving into this because this is Wormwood's gaming table, the Modular Game Table from Wormwood. They do regular campaigns on this. This is their holiday event one, where you can go ahead and get delivery by January 2025. So go ahead and slot in there, join one of these 306 backers if you want to go ahead and put down a deposit, and then go ahead and customize your table to get your Wormwood table for slightly post-holiday season of 2025. Well, I guess holiday season 2024, but in 2025, you know what I mean. Anyways, we have Keep the Heroes Out, the digital game. Again, won't heavily dive into this. 3,000 backers, which is pretty nice to see. $165,000 raised, but Keep the Heroes Out is an established board game that has had, I think, 2 campaigns. It's basically a solo or cooperative tower defense game, as you can take control of a bunch of monsters trying to, well, keep the heroes out. This is a crowdfunding campaign for the digital version of the game, so you can go ahead and pay $15 to get your hands on the digital version of the game. And yes, there are also tabletop versions in case you want the physical versions of the games as well. Those are opportunities for you as well. You can dive into all those. We won't be heavily diving into the tabletop stuff, but basically letting you know this is a digital version of Keep the Heroes Out in case you're interested. Granted, these are kinds of things that they probably will go on sale on Steam. You get them cheaper later if you're willing to be patient, but if you want to support the publisher or just get it now, then $15 will get you Keep the Heroes Out. In the not yet funding category, we have Mighty Shot from This Is a Game. Based on the current, based on the current traction of the campaign, this is a game. The Mighty Shot currently doesn't look like it will fund as of right now, but we'll see how things pan out. But this is currently 76 backers, 12,000 euro raised out of a 38,000 euro goal. This is bringing you strategy combined with dexterity to your tabletop, as you basically deal with a little bit of part crokinole, part head-to-head, skirmish game. Not really skirmish game, but you have a boss. You can be controlling minions, summoning minions onto the board, and then taking these crokinole shots as you line up and try to utilize your abilities to take down their minions. The basic idea is you need your minions to control the board and ding your opponent's boss's health, but the problem is your bosses have all their abilities, you have decks of cards with all these abilities, and you're trying to use the unique natures, the unique different asymmetries of the various bosses in the game to go ahead and take down your opponents. The game is going to come with little kits over here. We have the basic kits that are available, because each kit is going to give you two different bosses to face off against, and you can go with the standard edition of the game or the deluxe edition of the game. The deluxe edition is going to replace those miniatures, will replace the standees with miniatures and acrylic standees, depending if you're talking about the heroes or the minions of the game. There's also going to be a solo or cooperative mode where you take down this boss battle as well, so you can go ahead and play any of your characters against the boss battle in case you want to play this solo cooperatively while still diving in and practicing your crokinole shots, not fully crokinole, but crokinole adjacent shots in this game. Now, like I said, right now, currently does not look like it'll fund, but we'll see if they have any tricks up their sleeve as the campaign continues. Moving into starting off with the campaigns we're going to be covering today, we have Captain's Log New Horizons. There, the page went away for a second. Captain's Log New Horizons from Piff Games. This is an expansion and reprint to Captain's Log, a giant Xia-like game. It's basically a open sandbox adventure, similar to games like Merchants of Marauders to Xia Legends of Drift System, where you kind of have, an open world of how you're going to explore, how you're going to build, how combat heavy are you going to go, how merchant heavy are you going to go. But this taking place more in, piratey stuff in Captain's Log. They had an original crowdfunding campaign. They are back this time with the two new expansions, the China and Portugal, as well as the Myths and Legends expansion, adding a ton of new modules in each of those expansions to your game. So this is an opportunity to go ahead and get your hands on Captain's Log, the second edition of the game, or to get the expansions, or to get any combination of those, because there are a lot of combinations of those. We have Captain's Log New Horizons, which is going to be 115 euro for the two expansions. This is not the base game, these are the two expansions. We have China and Portugal for 63 euro, Myths and Legends for 63 euro as well. The original Captain's Log, reprint of Captain's Log for 85 euro, the Captain's Log Kickstarter edition from the original campaign for 80 euro, and then 165 euro for the big box and the expansions, and then from there we have continuous pledge levels combining various iterations of the big box, of the expansions, all of that. A whole bunch of stretch goals to dive into as well. The expansions, basically, there's a whole section down here as far as what they're bringing to the table, but they add a lot of different modules. Frankly, I don't know enough about the game to know the intricacies of the modules, past, the little blurbs they have. We have potions and curses and sea monsters and corrupted worlds and runes, different expansion modules that will be added, giving you a ton of ways to go ahead and play the game. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? The expansions are not cheap. Coming in at a campaign that cost 80 euro the first time round, I think it was 80 euro if I'm not mistaken, and then diving into expansions that will run you 125 euro for two expansions, that's definitely a big jump over here, which is partially why you're seeing over here the actual funding on this campaign is higher than the first time around, but the number of backers are definitely seeing a drop off of, and part of that, that's something you can see in general, but I think the high price point of the expansion is definitely going to factor in there as well. But this is a tricky one, because if you look at the original campaign actually did hold its value in the second-hand market, or at least mostly so, meaning what you paid for it versus what it went for in the second market, what they're going for in general. I've seen some that went for below, but in general, they're doing a decent job holding their value. The expansions coming in at a higher price point definitely makes it a harder question. Will they continue to hold the value or less so? Again, we are seeing that backer drop off, which makes me think a little less so. But to be fair, I'm pretty sure in the first campaign I said it probably won't hold its value, and I was wrong with that one, so do take that with a grain of salt. This is a well-rated game from the people who've played it. It's just it's leading into a specific audience of people who want this game, are paying a premium for it, and seemingly so far are enjoying it. Moving on, we have Lairs over here. Lairs from KTBG, 1,900 backers, currently 43 hours to go, $151,000 raised. Lairs is going to be, from KTBG, Kid Table Board Gaming, the sister company to Burnt Island Games, focusing more on family friendly. But this one over here is going to be a two-player game that's, there's more than that. There are modes that'll give you more than two players, but it's a two-player game effectively at its core, in which you're going to be building a dungeon, your opponent's going to be building a dungeon, and then you're each going to go ahead and wander into your opponent's dungeon and see how well you fare as far as avoiding traps and monsters and getting the treasure and getting out. Now the game's going to start you off with a basic system at play, of basic enemies, basic bosses, basic traps, but then from there you can go ahead and unlock boxes. These boxes are going to add new content to your game. So if you've played games like Mind Management and you have those those shift packs, you're going to have more content released to you as you play through the game. And they kind of said, hey, here's a little bit of content if you want to see it. Here are some links you can click on if you want to see the content. I haven't, because I don't want to see the content, but effectively they kind of give you an overview of the type of content and the quantity of content so that you know what you're actually buying, while also trying to keep it a secret so that they actually keep that secret and surprise aspect. But I'm sure there'll be more traps and monsters and all these things in the game. This is for the Kickstarter version of the game. You have two options over here. We have, well, let's scroll down. We have two options. We have $50 for the basic Kickstarter version of the game, and then we have $82 if you also want the Lairs, what's the expansion called? The Lairs, the something with the Deeper Dungeons box. Deeper Dungeons box, 2 Lairs. The Deeper Dungeons is going to add a few things. You're going to have bigger dungeons. You're going to have the multiplayer mode that I kind of briefly touched upon there, where you can go ahead and have a one versus many kind of, or one person building a dungeon for 2 to 3 players exploring in a multi-level exploration of the game. You're going to have various bosses to fight against, more characters, unique more characters, new characters, asymmetric characters, giving you different abilities as far as things they can do in the game. You're going to have challenges and different terrain elements, these whole weird wall stuff, so a whole bunch of things being added to in the Deeper Dungeons expansion. There's also these dry erase boards available as an add-on for $7, plus there are other games as well you can go ahead and get your hands on. That's basically the core idea of Lairs. You can watch the videos, lots of content in the game as well, but the basic idea, you're both building a dungeon, you're both wandering into each other's dungeon, and you're trying to figure out who scores better, and then you're iterating upon that by adding more content, more boxes, and more ways for you to improve and vary up your game experience. As far as should you back and should you not will hold its value, again, they have those two main pledges over here, the $82 pledge for both, and then we have the $50 pledge for the core game. Neither one of these are going to be the retail edition. There separately will be a retail edition, but that will be available at retail. I should say, I assume there'll be a retail edition. I don't know if I specifically saw. Why back over here? Support small, unbeatable, Kickstarter exclusive. That won't be available, easily available. So it seems implied that there will be a retail edition over here. They generally have their retail editions, so that's going to be the first thing over there. But as far as these options for $50, oh, and shipping we should cover that as well. Shipping is going to run you around, let's say in the USA, $14 for the base game, and $15 if you want the Deeper Dungeon as well. That's going to be roughly the cost. You're looking at around 65-ish for the base game, and around or so, what's called 97 or so for the base game and expansion. As far as should you back or should you not will hold its value, on this one, you should back it if you're looking to either support the publisher, get it earlier, or if you just don't want to hunt down the secondhand market. Meaning if you just want to go ahead and get all the extras, and there are a bunch of extras, they did a great job kind of showing you all the extras right here, both the extras that are included by default, as well as these stretch goals and all those. You can see what's tagged with Kickstarter exclusive, so you can make a determination for yourself if you care about those extras, or if you're comfortable just waiting for retail and just getting the retail edition of the game, which will be cheaper, but with less stuff in it. So if you want those extra stuff and you don't want to deal with the secondhand market, then it will make sense to go ahead and back this campaign. But as far as will hold its value in the secondhand market, just looking at KTBG's last games in general, even their popular lines, like the whole creature comforts and all that, even their popular lines tend to not do a great job holding the value in the secondhand market. You can find people who got the money back fully, but you can also find cheaper copies available. Like looking at the last game, what was it? What was the last one? Was the Maple Valley, whatnot. You can find copies of that available relatively cheaply, even as a more popular game from them. So if you're fine diving into the secondhand market, this probably won't hold its value, but if you do want that exclusive content or support the publisher or get it earlier, then go ahead and back it. Moving on, we have Mech Bunny over here, solo game of the month from Gabe Barrett, $38,000 raised, 1,380 backers, $5,000 out of a $5,000 goal. 1 day left to go on this campaign, or 1 day, 22 hours or so by the time you watch it, a little less. Mech Bunny over here is going to be a solo game, because this is the solo game of the month club. This is going to be having going to be a degree of deck building in the game, a little bit of roguelite as you upgrade your character, go through several iterations, trying to fend off the various enemies as this Mech Bunny found alone on this strange planet full of bloodthirsty predators looking for the next meal. It's going to be iterative. You're going to be going through a bunch of scenarios, powering up your character, a little bit of deck building in it as well, and a little bit of puzzling moving around in the game. As usual with Solo Game of the Month, they're going to have two main pledges. They're going to have the $24 pledge for the game, they're going to have the $5 pledge for the print and play, and then they have this new add-on over here, which I don't know if that's a regular thing they're doing. I know that with a recent campaign, they had an older game available. I don't know if they're always having that, but either way, they have one right here. For $15, you can get the Kobayashi Tower and Mining Colony double-sided Neoprene playmat from one of their other previous games as well, available in this campaign. As far as should you back it, should you not, will hold its value. Same thing I always say about their games. Generally, with the solo game of the month, there will always be the exceptions from them that do hold their value, that are hard to seek out, because they don't do a lot of reprints on their games, which means the really popular ones, you'll have a harder time getting your hands on them, and they'll hold the value in the secondhand market. But generally speaking, their games won't hold their value. In general, it's going to fall into the button shy line. There'll always be the exceptions, but for the most part, it's one that it's your best chance to go ahead and lock it in and get it if you want it, but it probably will not be holding its value on the secondhand market. Moving on, we have Tatsumi. 443 backers, $26,000 raised, 2 days left to go. Tatsumi from Adam's Apple Games, famous for Planet Unknown, but a whole lot of other games under their belt. Tatsumi is going to be a thematic abstract strategy game in which players are controlling these dragons as they swoop over the board, trying to gather pieces, putting them into their own personal supply, and then placing them onto their boards as well in either symmetric or asymmetric style. The way you place those wings onto your personal player boards is going to determine how you score. So there's a few things you're doing as far as how you score points, but one of them is going to be trying to balance the order you gather gather rings in and the way they go on the player board, while being mindful and navigating around the players who are all gathering rings, changing up the map and forcing you as a player to constantly adapt to what is going on this little mini board over here. The game is going to come with 2 main pledge levels over here. We're going to have, where are we? We have the Tatsumi Limited. We have $55 for the limited edition and then $40 for the standard edition. The limited edition is going to have, what's it called? You're going to have these screen printed dragons and screen printed tokens addition to the game, and that's going to be $55, or you get the limited edition, $40, which is going to be your more retail type approach to the game. Shipping over here is going to, where is shipping? Shipping was somewhere down here. I saw shipping before, at least I think I did. 99% sure I saw shipping. We're just going to keep scrolling at this point. We're locked. We're committed. Here we go. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. This was a map. It says shipping on the sidebar. I missed it. This is just a map. There's a nice little map over here that had little like regions. I forgot about that. But shipping's going to run you around $7 to the US, and of course you can see your own region over here as well. As far as should you back or should you not will hold its value, I don't think this one will hold its value. As Apple games in general, they do have a big mix as far as how popular the games are. They have a wide variety of different types of games. Some of them do better than others. This one does not seem to be pulling in as much of an audience, and usually that lack of demand does translate into the second-hand market as well. So as before, if you want to support the publisher, get the game earlier, those are all great reasons to back. But as far as, or just guarantee a copy in general, but as far as will hold its value, I'm skeptical it will. Moving on to Storyfold Wildwoods, 3,500 backers, 66 hours to go, $212,000 raised. Storyfold Wildwoods is a smaller campaign from Open Owl Studios, but that's because it's a smaller game. It's a solo-friendly game that gives you a standard edition, but also a few deluxe options as well, and the basic idea is a solo narrative adventure game with dynamic card play, beautiful visuals, and a haunting story. I've had a chance to play this one. I think it is very charming and compelling. It also gives you the goal of diving into it without a rulebook. You can go ahead and just go through a tutorial, which teaches you the game. You can reference the rulebook as needed. But the basic idea is you dive in and you're trying to manage your actions while you try to go through these chapters. They're called theme sets. There's some other term for them. But you're going through these story sequences, and each page is going to give its own little challenge as you try to figure out how to progress to the next page in your chapter, or alternatively how to figure out how to actually finish and win the entire story. The game is going to be a constant resource challenge puzzle as you figure out the order in which to operate your cards while facing off against various enemies and trying to figure out where to push your luck, where to go ahead and just risk a little more, where to play things safe. It's basically managing resources and cards and the order of all of that in this charming little game, and it is a charming little game. As far as the pledge levels over here, you have $54 Canadian, so around $39 US for the basic version of the game. That's going to give you the Storyfold Wildwoods, but also giving the Kickstarter exclusive pack. So you are getting the Kickstarter exclusive content here, which is important because in general, Open Owl Games does have retail presence. If you look at Mythwind, you can get that game at retail, and that will likely translate to Storyfold Wildwoods. And I think this is meant to be their easier entry point. Think things like 20 Strong for Chip Theory Games. We have Storyfold Wildwoods for Open Owl Games, trying to give you a smaller, cheaper, easier. I mean, it's not going to be as small as 20 Strong. It's going to be much bigger than that, but trying to give you that easier access point into their catalog. So overall, $40 is going to be the. I mean, I don't know what the retail price is going to be, but the Kickstarter version is going to cost that extra shipping, of course. But it will give you that Kickstarter exclusive pack, which will give you some content, which we'll go through soon. We also have $89 for the deluxe pledge of the game, which is going to give you the basic story for Wildwoods, but also wood tokens, resin dice, and a double-sided Neophane playmat, and their Kickstarter exclusive pack, which again will be in all pledge levels. And then over here for $133, you're also going to get the collectible Luma and Bra miniatures, the enamel pin set, and that's the extra stuff you're getting on top of those pledges. As far as the Kickstarter exclusive pack over here, if we can try to find it, here we go. We have the bookmark plus the UV printed Luma card. We have the Luma and Brom sticker. We have the UV printed Brom cards. So you're basically getting nicer quality cards for the main cards you're having. These cards over here specifically are the main ones that will be more present on your sideboard on a regular basis. So having that little bit of a sparkle or shine to it is a nice thing. We have the Luma bookmark. We have the UV printed power cards. These are going to be the main actions you're going to be taking in the game. The creature bookmark, and then the art print. And we'll see if anything else will be added, but I'm guessing less so. Well, maybe something will. I just don't know. I think at the gap, I would guess maybe not, but we'll see how things go in the last 2 days of the campaign. As far as should you back or should you not will hold its value, a lot of that depends on how much the retail price actually will be. In general, most people are picking the cheaper option in this one, which is not always the case on crowdfunding. But we have the vast majority are coming in. 21 people are backing the smaller, cheaper option, and then we have 920 people coming in a little more premium, and then we have 275 coming in at the most premium. So sometimes in these campaigns, you see a lot of people going all in. This time around, people are seeming to be more pulled in by those cheaper price points, which is nice to a certain extent, but also that's going to result in the lower funding overall. But as far as should you back or should you not will hold its value, it's hard to say on this one. I think it is a good game, and I think there are different pledge levels at play, and there's a few different things. There's, in general, the basic pledge level. Let's take a look at that. Basic pledge level, once you factor in shipping and the assumed retail price, I assume you'll be able to get the game cheaper at retail, but this will give you those extra things, which are going to be nice little quality of life upgrades at not that expensive a price point for a game that I think is going to be generally well received. The higher price points are going to be giving you more content, but also at a much higher price point, so it's trickier there as well. I definitely put this one in the risk category. I have a hard time making a call either way. I wouldn't want to say that it won't hold its value. I wouldn't want to say that it will. It's going to be, this one's a little trickier for me to make a judgment call on, so I'm putting it in the risk category, which we tend to do every once in a while. Moving on, we have KeyForge Prophetic Visions from Ghost Galaxy Games, the fourth KeyForge campaign from Ghost Galaxy, $153,000 raised, 588 backers, 5 days left to go. Prophetic Visions is going to introduce the new concept of visions. These decks are going to come with 2 visions at play, and these visions are things that will basically trigger based on your opponent's actions. But you're going to also have the opportunity to slip cards underneath those visions that represent the idea that as a player triggers these actions, that card will flip and some sort of fate event will happen, which is going to be usually bad for them and good for you, and so the player either has to try to avoid triggering the scenario, which limits the actions they can take, or just trigger the scenario giving you the card effect, which is, again, either way is good for you, but it's an interesting twist on the gameplay mechanisms. That's going to be the new twist that's coming with Prophetic Visions. Past that, I'm not going to heavily dive into every single thing in this campaign. This is KeyForge. It's going to be a programmatically generated decks where the cards are built on their own, but the decks are algorithmically generated. Every card is unique, with everyone having a unique card name as well, as far as your main character or whatnot on it. It's a game system that's been around from Fantasy Flight. Ghost Galaxy took it over and brought it back to life, and again, they've had several sets with a ton of similar crowdfunding campaigns where they give you any number of options from custom decks. Well, let's actually just go through. Let's go to the pledge levels over here. We're not going to go heavily into everything. We'll say there's the basic, Seeker of decks for $80 over here, which is just giving you the decks and the stretch goals in the game. So pretty much straightforward, just diving into a few decks, which is not my opinion as far as, we have 180-some people backing this one, but I wouldn't recommend this as the best way to get stuff, but it is an option. We have the Reaper Ember over here, which is going to start giving you some of the cool things, including the personalized decks. So if you want to create a personalized deck with your own little name configuration, they have that option over there. It's a nice little way to go ahead and get something cool about this that's unique to yourself. We have the Novice of the Crucible, which is going to give you the 2-player starter set and a few decks, and then we start getting into the Breaker of Chains, Turner of Keys, Architect of the Crucible. These are all going to rapidly accelerate just how much content you are getting for this game. There can be a lot of content. Looking at this Architect of the Crucible, you're looking at, 1,400 decks? No, how much? 144 decks, that's what it was. 144 decks for $1,500, but you're also getting all those other goodies that would easily add up to hundreds of dollars worth of add-ons. And if you're looking at the average price point of the deck, because depending on when you get these games, down the road they tend to go for like $10 a deck, and this is assuming retail. The secondhand market, this is all over the place, depending on what you're looking at. If you're looking at retail, a general deck at retail new will be around $12. So 144 decks at $12 a piece means at $1,500, you're already getting your money's worth, especially once you factor in all those extra things you're going to get. So these higher priced pledges are usually where I say there's the most reason to back, as far as waiting for retail or the secondhand market, but obviously you're spending a lot of money to do so. The other reason to back would be if you want those customized, personalized decks, because that will give you an experience you can't get outside of this campaign. You can't get it on the secondhand market, you can't get it retail, this is your only time to do so. So as far as should you back it, should you not, will hold its value. Generally, for the most part, I put this campaign into the category of not holding its value, but there still could be reasons to get certain pledges, especially if you're a hardcore KeyForge fan and want a whole bunch of these things. And this isn't the only pledge that'll be worth it. Any of the higher pledges usually are worth it once you factor in the extras, and if you would otherwise be getting those decks at the full price point at retail. But alternatively, that's a whole different conversation. If you're looking at eBay or whatnot, or if you're looking at whether it'll hold its value, it's a whole different conversation. Moving on, we have Avalon, the Riven from Shadowborn Games. 6 days to go, 5,000 backers, $772,000 raised. Avalon, the Riven is a 2 to 4 player Arthurian area control game from the creators of the incredibly popular Oathsworn. The game is going to take place across 2 or 3 rounds, and yes, 2 rounds is a totally viable experience. I've played this game at 2 rounds, I've played this game at 3 rounds, I've played this game at 2, 3, and 4 players, and all experiences are incredibly satisfying. I think that 2 rounds gives you a nice, satisfying, meaty way to learn the game. It doesn't give you the full experience, but the full experience is definitely going to be a lot longer, especially if you are playing with the asymmetric roles. Because while every faction is going to be asymmetric no matter what you do, you have a choice between a single small ability or the drastic asymmetry of the game. That is definitely worth it, but I recommend for your second game onwards, there's a lot going on in this game. You're basically going to be exploring the mists of Avalon across either 2 to 3 rounds. Each round, the mists are going to reset and reshape and reform, except for the players that have actually placed their settlements onto the board, locking things down a bit more. But past that, you're going going to be exploring the mist, you're going to be finding artifacts, finding monsters to take control of. Across the course of the game, you're going to have an escalating degree of how many monsters you can control, giving you more and more unique abilities in combinations with the artifacts, in combination with your faction powers, in combination with the asymmetry, and in combination with the cards you're going to play. Because you're going to have a ton of cards. There's 160-ish cards, I think that's what it was. 160-ish cards from 4 different deck types, each one being completely unique with the art and the abilities on them, giving you an absolute ton of different ways as far as how you're going to move, how you're going to expand your new characters, how you're going to play settlements on the board, and how you're going to engage in combat. The card play in this game is everything as far as the decision and the tightness of it. I really enjoyed this one. You can check out my review coverage if you want, or check out Tim Chun if you want a far prettier video as far as this game. But overall, Avalon the Riven Vale, I think it's a fantastic area control game experience, and one worth checking out. The pledge levels for this game are going to be several. We have $59. In fact, actually, let's scroll down to the pledge level section over here. We have $59 for the retail edition of the game. That's going to give you the two-tone Lord miniatures, but everything else is going to be standees. So all the other characters in the game, all your units in the game are going to be a bunch of standees. We're going to have 70 standees for the game, 176 tarot cards over here for an artifact and mythical beast, all the various cards in the game. We have the core edition for the $99, which is going to give you the stretch goals, and it's going to give you the full miniature experience. The stretch goals box, the Myths and Monsters stretch goal, the two-tone miniatures, the 15 large mythical beasts. All this is kind of the intended core experience. This experience is definitely viable, but it's meant to be the cheaper, more budget option. And again, this is the rule of crowdfunding. I think $59 for that makes sense, but nonetheless, this is intended as obviously the main core recommended experience. From there, we jump up to $149, which is going to give you everything gold foiled. So you're getting all the cards and boards holo foiled and gold stamped. And the tricky part is this game's art is pretty enough and compelling enough that I think it definitely is a very visceral way as far as how things will look. It's an extra $50 for it, so you'd have to factor in whether that's worth it to you, but I do think that gold foil on all the cards over there, the holo foil aspect on the cards, I think it's definitely something that will improve the visual aesthetic of the game, considering the beautiful art on the cards. You also got the 4 triple layer faction trays, the 4 custom faction trays, the deluxe hardback full art rulebook, which is fascinating, we'll get to that soon, the holofoil Avalon game box, and the holofoil Myths and Monsters box. That's what you're going to be getting for the additional. By the way, I love how clearly they tag the extra things you're getting in each of these pledge levels. Jumping down to the collectors all in, we have these 3 extra things being added. We have the Mistwalkers expansion, the Iron Forged upgrade, and Vernix the Black Dragon, which we'll talk about what those 3 things are. That's going to be the extra stuff you're getting for an extra $50 on top of your pledge level. That's going to be $199 all in, and currently the most popular pledge level with how many people? Let's see if we can scroll on the sidebar. With 298, with 2,567 people backing those options. Jumping on to the add-ons so you can get a sense of what those things are. We have the deluxe rulebook over here. This is going to be one of the add-ons. And this, by the way, this is a very nice concept over here where they're combining the art and lore of the game combined with a hardback rulebook, which I think is interesting. I don't yet know if I like that or not, because I like the idea of having my lore and art in a book I actually care about as opposed to a book that goes on the shelf and never gets pulled off. But I don't like the idea of my rulebook being significantly longer than it needs to be, even just for the various heft of it, although that is premium. So I'll let you know if I actually like this down the road. Right now, I applaud them for the concept. I don't even know if I like it. We have the Mistwalker expansion over here, which is going to give you a new 5th deck and a unique Mistwalker for a Walker of every faction. There are going to be champions who can go ahead and traverse the mist to gain cards. We have the Iron Forge upgrade, which looks very cool for $35, although again included in that max tier pledge. You have basically all this stuff upgraded to metal in the game. And then we have Vernix the Black Dragon for a 99mm mini over here with the Mystical Beast card, holofoil Mythical Beast card for $10, but again included in that higher level pledge. And then the Kingsguard sleeves. Now the Kingsguard sleeves are going to be $14. I do not believe this is included in every pledge. I say I do not believe because there's a small little, I have a small drop of uncertainty because it's not listed in the pledge, but the Mist Touch miniatures are not listed either, but this one specifically says it's not included, the other one doesn't. But I still don't think the sleeves are included. I think those are going to be separate in addition to your $200. The Mist Touch miniatures are going to be obviously a Sun Drop, although in this case they are Mist Touch because Sun Drop is actually patented or whatnot, but a Mist Touch miniatures, they're going to give you that Mist effect, that Sun Drop effect to your miniatures for $29 to go ahead and add that to all the miniatures in the game. That's basically what you have as far as all the various options. Shipping over here is going to run you around, again, depending where you are, between $25 to $45 for the basic retail, all the way up to collectors all in, which is not a small amount of money. So factor in, because if you're looking at that $45 plus Mist Touch plus sleeves, your $200 pledge, which sounded reasonable a minute ago, suddenly just jumped up to closer to, $290-ish or so instead, which is a lot more than that previous $200, which is, again, almost palatable. Again, when you're looking at these like giant all-ins, when Lands of Evershade has a $650 all-in and you see $200, you're like, oh, I can afford that, that's easy. But the $200 quickly balloons to $290, and suddenly it's a different conversation as to whether it's worth it to you, especially when you can go ahead and get the game for $60, or possibly just wait and see how the secondary market does. Speaking of which, should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? again, a little tricky to say. I do think it will. I think this is a good enough game, and I think the price points, despite all the extra little nickel and diming that adds up, it's not really nickel and diming, but still adds up. At the end of the day, an all-in of this is costing you $290, which is roughly $290, which is not a small amount of money. But I do think this one has that premium feel. I think they're giving you a lot of content for it. They're giving you the deluxe metal stuff, all these real extras that will not just enhance the gameplay from the gameplay aesthetic, but also enhance the premium feel of the game. I do think this one is likely to hold its value. The original OS one definitely did. This is not the same thing. It's not as popular, but it's still doing fairly well, and I think there's a decent chance it'll hold its value. Moving on, we have Revenant. 4,000 backers, $494,000 raised, 6 days to go. Revenant, coming to you from Mindclash Games, is the newest game from Mindclash, set in the Voidfall universe, but giving you a worker placement game for 1 to 4 players, taking place across 4 rounds as you try to deal with the various Voidborn in this game, while trying to manage placing your units out onto the board, placing your workers. You're going to have 3 workers each round to place out, or 2 workers and a captain, 2 pilots and a captain, placing it onto the board onto either your own ships or the general ships of the various factions in play, trying to gain influence and control over those factions, which is going to give you endgame scoring, but trying to manage the tons of abilities the various ships are going to give you, as well as your own ships as well as landing on planets and moving across the galaxy. All good things in this game. It's going to be a brain burnery of an experience with a lot to manage across those 4 rounds. It will generally manage to just not outstay its welcome. It's a long game because, again, despite having only 12 actions, because of all the extra actions and the intricacies of everything, this is definitely not a short game. There's a lot going on, a lot of powers and abilities, can be incredibly satisfying. If you are a Mindclash fan, I definitely think this is one that is up your alley and worth checking out. Over here, we have €79 or $84 for the basic Revenant Captain Edition, and then we have for additional for $126, which can be an additional, what is that, $32 extra. You get the miniatures upgrade, and the miniatures upgrade does look very cool. Let's see if I can show you what it looks like. Comparison of editions. Here we go. Nope, not this, not this. There was something else. It's basically giving you all these miniatures. But there was a very cool GIF that showed you, and yes, I say GIF, not GIF. There's a very cool GIF that kind of showed you the way the extra miniature things worked. Not here, but I mean, these are the miniatures. They lay down on the board over here. You place down damage on them. Definitely going to elevate the gaming experience, but for an extra chunk of change. So the question is whether that's worth it to you. As far as on the shipping, let's look at shipping. Shipping is going to run you over here for the US, €22 or €24, depending which edition of the game you're looking at, which again will bump up that cost. As far as should you back it, should you not, will hold its value. In general, with Mindclash, I think it depends on the game. It definitely can be game dependent, but I would say this is probably more in the comparison range of Septima as far as how the campaign is doing, drawing people in. It's not going to be their bigger, massive box experiences, but it definitely has an appeal, and it's built in the Voidfall universe, and I do think it's a very, very good game. I know Septima is like a good game, and Septima, I guess everyone's going to have their own reaction and whatnot. I enjoyed Septima. I like Revenant a lot more, and I think it leans more into Mindclash's feeling and styling of their other games, but in a good way. Feels very unique, but yet familiar at the same time, and I think you'll be, if you're a fan of Mindclash games, I definitely think it's one worth checking out. I think as far as should you actually not will hold its value, generally their games in this class tend to do a decent job holding the value-ish. So holding the value-ish kind of means you'll get most of your money back. You may or may not make your money back completely. You may lose a little bit on shipping, but usually these games do generally fine in the secondhand market. I think that's likely going to be true as Revenant as well. You may not get back, if you spend your $126 plus shipping and all that, you might lose the shipping. You might end up losing that if you find out it's laid down the road that's not a game for you, that you enjoy it, but not necessarily enough. You might lose something on it, but they do still have a strong secondhand market, if not a fully secondhand market. Moving on to Catharsis 2nd Edition, dice rolling adventure game, 190 backers, $57,000 raised, 7 days left to go. Catharsis is going to be a solo or cooperative boss battling experience, Yahtzee boss battling experience, in which you're going to have a vastly asymmetric characters facing off against a vastly asymmetric boss. All the bosses are massively different in this game, and you're going to be going ahead and utilizing the character's action decks while you roll dice up to 3 times, assigning those dice to your abilities, trying to take down the boss or the boss decks, because it's not always a specific boss. Like, very often it's a set of cards you're going to, from traps, encounters, events, all those things. But again, highly asymmetric. You can check out my content, my review content on the Catharsis Divine Wrath, their last game in the series, and this is going to be the new Catharsis 2.0 with a lot of revisions to it. The pledge levels over here, there's a lot of pledge levels, well, not a lot, there's some pledge levels over here. We have $269 for the Sage tier deluxe box over here. We have the Mortal tier, which is only Catharsis, not going to be the additional meta, I think is the Mega Pack, only Catharsis for $130. We have the Sage tier for $190, which will give you the Sage tier goals, as well as the bonus characters in the Mega Pack 2. And then we have the Avatar tier, which is only the gameplay content, but it's giving you all the gameplay content for $360 over here, and the Angel tier for $380, giving you kind of deluxe big box. We have the unique playmats, 1,000 sleeves, new art, all these things for the Angel tier, tier, and then the Avatar tier, Deluxe, all in, everything for $600. Which kind of brings us to the should you back or should you not will hold its value. I haven't even gotten to shipping, but 190 backers. I think a big part of that is this game is really well rated. My personal opinion is I think the gameplay can be incredibly well done. I wasn't pulled in as much by the art. Granted, they're making some changes, but the first edition one I played, or Divine Wrath, I wasn't as much pulled in by the art, and I found graphic design and text heavy and a lot of things like that. But the actual compellingness of the bosses, the characters, that's a high strong degree of asymmetry. Reminded me a lot of Too Many Bones as far as the sheer variety of the characters and how they feel. But again, it's expensive, and as far as should you back, should you not will hold its value, looking at the original Catharsis Divine Wrath, I couldn't find a lot of information on it, but the one sale I found, I only found one sale, so take it with a grain of salt. One sale does not a pattern make, but the original Catharsis Divine Wrath, I was looking at the $130 pledge before shipping, was selling for like $100 on eBay, so definitely not one that holds its value. You're losing on the cost, you're losing on shipping, you're losing on all the transaction fees and all that stuff as well, so definitely not one that held its value overall. This is expensive. This is an expensive game with a strong following. I am skeptical that it'll hold its value, but I'm also skeptical that you'll have an easy time tracking it down, just given the only 190 backers on this one. So if you want to support the creator or guarantee a copy, it makes sense to get it now, but I am skeptical that it would hold its value. Moving on, we have Space Driller, when it loads. Space Driller, excavate minerals and carefully maneuver between dangerous alien eggs in this roll and write mining game. 93 backers, 7 days to go, $1,200 raised. Space Driller looks kind of charming. It's from Carrot Pen, who has like 5 or 6 campaigns under the belt. This one is going to have you rolling dice, assigning them to your own pattern, and then creating their own little mini pattern grid overlay, which you're then going to layer on top of your board to decide how your driller moves as you try to make your way to the edges, try to collect various gems and everything, and try to avoid these dead bodies or alien remains that you try not to excavate. So it's an interesting roll mechanism. Again, these all are going to follow some degrees of similarities, but just the way you're creating these kind of movement patterns and then trying to utilize those as you move around the board is a slight shift from the types of things I've seen. Looks compelling, haven't had a chance to play it, looks very charming. The game's going to run you €3 for the game. €8 is going to get you everything from the Orbit Excavator Pledge with the addition of every available add-ons for Space Driller, and then €36 will get you access to all his previous games. As far as should you back or should you not will hold its value, this is a print and play, it should have nothing to do with holding its value. Ultimately the question is whether you're going to play them, and to that end, if you find yourself playing these, then go ahead, get it if it's interesting. It's fairly cheap. And if you find yourself buying printed plays and not playing them, then don't get it, because unless you want to donate money to the creator. Moving on, we have Vestige from Orange Nebula, $446,000 raised, 2,443 backers, 9 days left to go on the campaign, and I know you're waiting on content. I still hope to have content for you by the end of the campaign. I have not had a chance. It's a long story short, we're supposed to get the prototype, and I haven't gotten the prototype yet, so we'll see if we're on before the end of the campaign or not, but I'll update you one way or the other. But either way, Vestige over here from Orange Nebula is, and that's because, for those of you who watch the channel who know, we did an interview, went down there, I did have a chance to play it. I am hoping to have content for you by the end of the campaign. In some way, shape, or form, I'll talk about it. If not here, then I'll talk about it in my week in review, just so make sure you have something before the campaign ends. But either way, Vestige basically is based on Vindication from Orange Nebula. It's definitely built on the same bones and the same system. It is a different game, but they're going to have strong similarities to them. The general idea of Vindication is, in Vindication, you are a wretched scumbag. You are cursed and you're trying to recover yourself. It's all thematic overlay, but the core idea of the game is it's a cube pusher. You're moving around the game, you're trying to take advantage of the various zones on the board as you try to take advantage of the abilities, try to, basically every turn you're going to be activating one of your characters, activating a location, and then moving. So you have those 3 core things, plus possible free bonus actions, while you try to figure out your own unique puzzle with all the various cards in play, because there's a lot of cards in play, and all those cards are going to give you different ways to try to push different levers of that puzzle. Do you want these artifacts, or that endgame scoring for that monster? Those different things that are going on. That's the original Vindication. Vestige is going to have a lot of that core DNA at play. You're going to have the same core structure of moving cubes around, you're going to have the same general map tile, but there are going to be differences in it, a lot of differences, most primarily as far as, and again, this is tricky how to cover the game from teaching you the game to both players who know Vindication and who don't know Vindication, but there are going to be shifts. Instead of relics, traits, and monsters in the typical sense, these are now going to be jobs where you have to go ahead and get the job, but then also track down to a different location, specifically designed to make the game less static than the original Vindication, where you could be at a single place and just continue to harvest the same trait again and again. This is going to force you to move around the board, keeping it more dynamic. It's also becoming in a smaller box size, shifting it up both the price point and the accessibility, especially if you have that giant box, the Chronicles of Nations. This will give you a smaller box opportunity. There's going to be other differences, including the double layer player boards for that's like more of a component issue. There's going to be the Nemesis player, the Nemesis or Nemesi players you're going to be placing off against, either in solo, cooperative, or competitive, giving you another shift. Now, there's a bunch of other small things to go through. There's gonna be some I can't remember the name, the subversion cards. So in addition, whenever you get these endgame scoring that's going to unlock as you cross certain scoring thresholds. You also have these new subversion cards, which kind of give players their secret quest doing the game, but almost as an obstacle as opposed to an opportunity, but it's an obstacle that you can turn into an opportunity and staggers whatever flow you have going. So lots of small differences that will shift the game, but that said, it's definitely built on the same core DNA as Vindication. This is a lot of campaign to scroll through. I'm going to try to focus on the main things. There's a whole lot of free packs you can get for different things. They've tried to put those in different pledge levels. You'll see them shortly, but effectively you have, first of all, free during this campaign. They have free worldwide shipping. Definitely worth calling out because of, well, it's not something you see in campaigns nowadays or very infrequently, but they have free worldwide shipping on all pledges over $100. We have the community design content pack. This is free for backing the game, period, full stop. We have the Shrouded Underworld. This is free for subscribing to our Orange Nebula newsletter, and yes, you can still do so in order to get this Shrouded Underworld pack. We have the Ascendant Machine crossover. This is free if you back the Waste of Parts from Sky Kingdom Games, otherwise it's going to be a paid option. And then we have the tablet, the free for backing the Codex level pledge, and with the Inquisitive Decks, the free for backing the Codex level pledge. So this is all the free-ish content, but the free all comes with various asterisks of what you're doing. So for example, if you're not getting the Codex level pledge, then you don't get some of those things for free. The pledge down here, we're going to have the all-in bundle, giving you everything except for the sleeves and tees. We have the Wretched bundle for $49. Let's see, there's actually a pledge level bundle that I think was a better, let's go down to over here, the Wretched edition, Swanky edition. We have the Codex bundle. Here we go. So the Codex bundle over here is going to be $189, giving you the swanky version of the game, the free Inquisitive Decks, the free tablet. Again, free is relative when you're backing any bundle. It just means take into account. We have included the Neophyte player mat bundle. We have the 5th and 6th player mats as well. You have the 5th and 6th player box over here, the chop box bundle, the map regions, the various Treasury 12 card scrap packs. All these various scrap packs are going to be included. We have the Community Crafter scrap pack, and then it very clearly lists what's not included, which, by the way, I generally appreciate. When a campaign lists what's not included in addition to what's included, that takes a little bit of the homework away from you of wondering what am I missing out on. They tell you very clearly what you're missing out on. So over here you have not included the Shrouded Underworld, the Scavengers, and the Ascendant Machine, but they also tell you how you can get those things as well, but they're not technically in that pledge level. We have the Gameplay All-In for $136. This is going to have some things taken out of it, but it's going to give you all the gameplay content, and they even made sure to include, I believe the Ascendant Machine crossover pack is included in this one. Even if you don't get the Waste of Parts, you are getting this one here, because they called it a Gameplay All-In. They wanted to honor that, so it's going to be in this one. But then again, they list not included, the Mob Box, the Particle Sleeves, they list some things not included there. And then we have the what's this one called? The All-In Bundle for $194, which again is going to give you a lot over there. It does include as well the Ascendant Machine. It does not include the Particle Sleeves. So again, they did a hopefully good job presenting exactly what is and isn't included at different levels. These scrap packs in general are going to be just more card content for the game, so not essential for the game, but more content for your game experience from any different other card types in the game. It's going to give you more variety, especially if you're playing this a lot. Not necessarily essential, but possibly nice to have. As far as should you back or should you not, and I was almost going to say shipping, because shipping is not necessary because free rollout shipping at over $100. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? Hard to say on this one. Vestige, if you watch the interview I did with Orange Nebula, this is definitely one that Vestige is designed to be their entry point into a smaller box, similar to the way that we have, what was it called? The, where was it? The Storyfold. Similar to the way we have Storyfold or 20 Strong, is when we have these big box companies introducing these smaller, more affordable game points to have that foothold in retail, to not just have a crowdfunding audience. To a certain extent, Vestige is filling that need, but they also are catering to their audience as well by giving you a swankier, deluxe version of the game with all the bells and whistles and extra things you can go ahead and get added to the game experience. So it's a little hard to say as far as how things will go overall in this one. I will say generally, Vindication has a strong following. The 2,444 backers in this one in general as well, especially considering the similarities, is definitely one that definitely already has a following. I think it's a little less unique than your typical Orange Nebula project, which makes it a little harder to gauge compared to the others. This is the first time they're kind of diving back in. This is, Everdell Farshore compared to Everdell, or Wormspan compared to Wingspan, definitely leaning into the same DNA while branching out, and that's always a bit of a question mark as far as the audience and how those things will land. I do think overall this is likely to hold its value because Orange Nebula's content generally has in the past, but I definitely do think it is more into that risk category because it is a very different beast. Like, especially that box size, if you're expecting the Giant Chronicles of the Ancients, that is a much smaller box size than what you might be expecting, but the gameplay content's there. It's just being put together in a more affordable, different package instead. Moving on over here, we have Last Aurora, Frostlands, and Firelands. Last Aurora, 143,000 euros raised, 1,300 backers, 9 days to go. This is re-implementing or bringing back Last Aurora, but it's dividing into two games. We have the original Last Aurora, which is being rebranded as Frostlands, and then we also have the Firelands. Both of them thematic both of them thematically being different and mechanically having some changes, but the general idea of both of them is true. You're basically trying to navigate a journey across the Wildlands in different ways, again, depending on the theme, and there's gameplay differences, there's card differences, character differences, but you're basically trying to prep for a journey, plan your journey, utilize your characters, and kind of go through a degree of almost hand management / deck building as you figure out how to go ahead and improve your convoy and survive in the wilds. That's the general premise of the game. It's an overall well-received game, been around for quite some time, and they're bringing it back now. We have Last Aurora first edition in 2021, the Frozen Steel in 2023, and this is bringing you that combination aspect to this with a lot of pledge levels to go through. This one has a lot of pledge levels. We're going to dive into all of them. But let's go ahead and look at the pledge levels. Over here, we have upgrade pledge over here for first edition owners. So, and they did a good job, by the way. They have the pledge guide, or they have this one over here. They had something. They had something here. Here we go. They read carefully. They kind of talk about the upgrade pack. It's worth calling out. They tell you what's in the upgrade pack, what's not. If you are a first edition owner, you're not going to get a replacement box, for example. And some of the cards that don't necessarily have any actual real changes, you're not going to get changed. You're not going to get every single card replaced. So if there's a small icon difference, you might not. But if there's actual difference, you will. But they kind of talk about what you're getting, just so you have the full transparency as far as knowing what's in that upgrade pack, as opposed to just like clicking buy and then being upset later. So that's important to read. That's also going to be important for the miniature set as well, because the old miniature set is going to have content for just the one game, so you're going to have a kind of hybrid miniature set thing to be mindful of as well. And they also have a pledge guide, which I thought was a great pledge guide, kind of walking you through these questions over here of what do you have, what do you want, do you want just an upgrade, do you want both editions, are you new here, are you a retailer? They kind of guide you through all these pledges very well, but then you get to the pledges where there's a lot of pledge levels, and the reason there's so many pledge levels is because you kind of have a lot of pledge levels to begin with. We have upgrade pledge. Oh, interesting. Never mind. We have less pledge levels than I thought. Never mind. You can ignore what I said. That's all good. Either way, we have the upgrade pledge level. I thought we had twice as many pledge levels, but that's on me. Upgrade pledge. First edition is $25. We have the Frost pledge of $49, which is going to be giving you the Frostlands core pledge, which is the Frostlands plus the stretch goals. We have the Fire pledge, which is going to be Firelands plus the stretch goals. We have the upgrade and Fire pledge, which again, this is where you have that breakdown over here. So you have the upgrade pledge, but you also have for Firelands. So if you want to get your original version of the game upgraded, but you also want Firelands, this will be for you. Frost and Fire pledge. If you don't have any of those games, that's going to be for you. The upgrade and gameplay all in for first edition owners, and then the gameplay all in straight up away, and the upgrade and complete first edition for first edition owners, and the upgrade all in. So there still are a lot of pledge levels. I just thought there were twice as many, but a lot of different options for this game. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? I'm skeptical it will. The original Last Aurora, you can find copies of it for $20, and this is a newer version. It's going to have new stuff, and it's going to have the stretch goals, and going to have all those things. But I just think this is an older title with not necessarily enough demand for this one to be one that holds its value in the secondary market. Definitely, if you want all this content or any combinations of it, this will be the easiest way to get your hands in it. But just based on the Last Aurora being an older game that does have availability, I think this is less likely to hold its value on the secondary market. Moving on, and finally to second last campaign over here. Second last campaign is going to be the Waste of Parts from Sky Kingdom Games. $94,000 raised, 788 backers, 9 days left to go. The Waste of Parts is a cooperative game for 1 to 5 players that is part tower defense, part dungeon crawl. I know in the video we did, they got a few people who said it's not dungeon crawl. Thematically, it's not a dungeon crawl. Mechanically, you have characters, you're upgrading them, you're moving from room to room, you're finding gear. Mechanically, it definitely has elements of both tower defense and dungeon crawl going on over here. But the general idea is you are trying to travel your mech across the wastelands. You're going to be upgrading your mech, because every single round there's a little scrap room over there where you can go ahead and salvage room, where you can go ahead and gather scrap, gather various goods, and try to gather cards that will both upgrade your characters and improve the rooms on the ship. So you're trying to kind of upgrade everything in the game while dealing with these asymmetric characters, and of course dealing with the fact that every single round you're going to have monsters attract your way, investing your ship, blocking off the wastelands, and trying to stop your mech from reaching its destination. Your job is to manage all these things and try to keep the mechs dead as much as possible, killing the mechs, while trying to survive across this journey, and trying to just power up and be better than they are as you move across the 3 levels of enemies, the 1, 2, and 3, powering up, getting stronger, taking them all down. The game is going to come with very much a steampunk bling to it. You're going to have these game trays, dials over here. You're going to have all these various asymmetric characters activating their abilities. You're going to have all the gear that they're adding. You're going to have the various enemies and get the ship cog, all these various fun things going on on in the game. The pledge level is going to have $89 for the base version of the game, which the base version of the game is already a blinged out version of the game, and the Wasteland Edition is going to give you the 2 playmats and the mech miniature for $129 instead. Shipping is going to run you, let's go down to shipping. Shipping is going to run you $25 or $30 depending on the edition. If you are in the US, you want to jump that onto your pledge, which brings us to the should you back or should you not will hold its value. And I'd say overall I'm skeptical it will. I think the price point plus shipping as well, and we see this on a few campaigns. Some campaigns like you see like on Lairs, they're like, why is shipping so expensive? But their shipping is actually cheaper than some of the campaigns we've seen today. You see things like, Avalon or Wasted Parts, you see higher level shipping. Shipping is just expensive, and every campaign has to choose where and when they try to, what's the word for it? Not proxy, where they, oh my gosh, there's a term where they compensate, there's a term for when a company partially covers shipping that I'm forgetting the term. But either way, every company's going to have to decide that themselves where the shipping price is going to be. It's expensive out there. It is expensive out there, and that is what it is. But nonetheless, at the end of the day, you're looking at 780 backers from Skytanian Games who do have a large following. The Icefaring Guard did incredibly well, was incredibly popular, and this is tapping into a portion of the audience, but not nearly as much of that audience. And I think part of that is going to be the price point plus shipping. And I think that overall, the lesser value, the lesser demand here, the lesser audience demand over here is going to translate to secondhand market. I am skeptical this is one that will hold its value. Moving on, and finally we have Knitting Circle. 7,001 backers, 9 days to go, $213,000 raised. Knitting Circle is going to be a Calico game from the creators of Calico, Cascadia, Verdant, Nocturne, Fit to Print, all of that and more. Coming to you from Flat Out Games, this is basically Calico in theme. Granted, there is an element in this game, if I can find it. There's something in the game where you get these bits. No. There's something in the box over here, maybe it's down here, where you basically get content that you can use. Here we go. Kickstarter backers will receive the special custom expansion. Nope, that's just the Kickstarter. There's content in this game you can use in Calico to change the gameplay of Calico. There is that as well. So while the game itself is Calico themed, not a Calico game past that, there is content that can be mixed in with Calico, so that's something to take into account. Past that, the basic idea of the game is you're going to be across 6 rounds of play, you're going to be darning various types of, hats and scarves and socks and all these various things in the game. But that's going to lead you to a bit of a fierce competition for the various types of yarn that you're going to need from the central circle as you move your cats around the board. So there actually are cats in the game, but this cat's going to be moving around the board, collecting various pieces of yarn, and then trying to figure out how to actually go ahead and use those towards the garments you need, while also trying to fulfill these button requests that are going to want certain patterns, certain color combinations, certain options, or certain types of actual, somebody might want a hat, and you're going to score extra points for those, while also trying to be mindful of the general scoring goals in the game. So you're trying to juggle all of these different things while ultimately trying to craft your yarn. That's the core idea of the gameplay. There's going to be a solo mode as well. There's going to be that little mini expansion, and there's going to be content that you can use in Calico. So a lot of little extra things to be mindful of. The pledge is going to come in at $29 over here. Well, $10 for the print to play, $29 for the Kickstarter edition of the game, which kudos for Flat Out Games, by the way. I don't know how long I've been covering the games, but it feels like years now, when that $29 pledge has not shifted at all. When you're talking about that small a price point and just the nature of the gaming space and how things have changed, it's almost a little shocking that it hasn't gone up in any way. So kudos to them for continuously keeping that $29 price point at play. But it's going to be $29 for the game itself, and then you can get multiple copies as well. Shipping, on the other hand, shipping is going to be added subsidized. That's the word. They say it over here. Subsidized shipping. Thank you, Flat Out. Subsidized shipping over here. They talk about the actual cost over here, and they talk about the discounted price, which means that a basic version of the game, you're looking at a $29 game and a $14 shipping. The downside of having such a cheap game is it does mean that the shipping perceptionally is such a higher portion of the game. Your cost of the game goes from here to that much on top of it just for shipping. You're looking at the full half the price of the game on shipping. So again, that's the downside of having a lower price point, because you have that mental anchor and that feeling that you're paying half as much, which means obviously if you can go ahead and get your hands on 5 friends and get 6 copies of the game, that's obviously the best way to go. But obviously there's a bit of logistics involved in that, because your cost will go down $7 per copy, which is much better, but the logistics just makes it a whole lot more of a headache to actually go ahead and deal with. But hey, maybe you have 2 friends. There's also that option. Shipping goes down $10 a game instead of $14. As far as should you back and should you not will hold its value, hard to say in general. They have such a strong retail presence that their games too tend to get flooded in retail. There are people who always want those extras, and the overall price point is affordable enough that people do tend to jump in on these, but I do find that they less and less hold their value. They tend to do fine overall, but it usually depends on how much people actually want that extra content, the extra little mini Kickstarter extra you get over there, and the extra price point on the game for the shipping usually makes that not as worthwhile. So I think this is one one that's usually fine if you want to support the creators, get it early, get that content, always a good reason to back, but a little less likely to hold its value on the secondhand market. And that is all the campaigns today, which means it's time to go ahead and pick our picks of the week. As usual, picks of the week are going to be two things. We're going to have the game that I am most personally interested in, as well as the game that I think is most likely to hold its value. And to that end, they actually kind of overline. So let's go, I don't know, I didn't actually plan this time around. I know the answers, but I didn't plan this properly. See, the problem we have over here, here's the problem. The problem we have is the one that is most likely to hold its value, as well as the personal interest pick of the week, is likely going to be Avalon the Riven Vale. But because of that, I'm going to go ahead and give Avalon the Riven Vale, Avalon the Riven Vale is going to get our value pick of the week, because I do think from all the campaigns we covered, this is the one that is the most likely to hold its value overall in the secondhand market. This is the one that's most reasonable to buy if you're trying to, well, not necessarily reasonable, it's expensive, but in terms of if you're looking at when's the best way to get it, whether now, retail, second market, Avalon the Referral likely is the best time to get it now. But because I like splitting up my picks of the week, we're going to go ahead and go with Vestige as my personal interest pick of the week. I'll dive into it more when I do my full thoughts on the game, first impressions and all that, but while definitely sharing DNA with Vindication makes it a little less exciting compared to something like Spiritfire or Unsettled with something new, at the same time there's still a lot of stuff that's good over here, and of course it's still based on Vindication, which was my #1 game of all time as of last year, so overall Vestige is still going to be my personal interest pick of the week. Had a lot of fun playing with it, enjoyed the Nemesis, enjoyed the non-Nemesis, overall enjoyed the package of what they are putting together with this game. And that is everything we have right now. There is no upcoming crowdfunding campaign because this is the end of the year, and we got like nothing, less and less games every single day. I don't know if there's any other games. We just had a few games launch on Kickstarter and GameFound. That's kind of your end of the year thing. So like there's no upcoming. This is the video. That's it. Until next time, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one. What's the difference between a good joke and a bad joke? Timing.